Hello, my name is James Turner, reporting for Port Technology International. And today I am joined by none other than Gene Seroka, Executive Director for the Port of Los Angeles. Gene, how are you?
Doing well, James. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too. Let's just dive straight in, shall we? 2021 has been an amazing year for the Port of Los Angeles. And in a recent year-end assessment, you actually predicted it to be your best year on record. Now that the year has finally come to a close, can you give us any more insight to how the port performed?
I still feel that way, and for a multitude of reasons. How our port community pulled together, folks across the supply chain had a single-minded focus on delivering goods to market, and how our leadership from the Biden administration, the president himself, to California Governor Gavin Newsom, and Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti all rallied to the cause of fixing supply chain problems and making sure that we hit milestones like those year-end holidays the way we did. In closing 2021, we saw retail sales in the United States jump 8.5%. Internet sales were up 11%. Spot shortages had to wait a little bit longer for products that we wanted to buy for family and friends. But in the end, a pretty good showing by a strong community effort.
Fantastic. So the first topic I wanted to go into today is because of this mass surge in demand, you've had to introduce a container dwell fee. So far, I believe this fee's been delayed around 10 times. But what was the thinking behind this? As SSA Marine in Seattle and Tacoma Husky have also implemented similar fees, yet implemented them straight away.
Well, when we announced this fee back on October the 25th, I had stated publicly and then at our Harbor Commission meeting later that week that I hoped this dwell fee was a miserable failure. And that would mean that if we did not collect even a nickel, that cargo was moving and it had the intended result. And that's what we've seen so far. Just before the holidays, cargo that was aging 9 days and longer had declined by 60% at the Port of Los Angeles. Inventories at warehouses nationwide were up about 2 percentage points year on year. And in-store inventories, those products that are on the shelves at the retail level, were within 1% of where we were the holiday season before. So all of these efforts combined with others really got us into a competitive situation. And I'm pleased that we have not had to implement that fee. It is still there for us. In the event we go a little bit backwards, I don't see that happening, but we got to keep the pressure on everyone to stay at the table and work the product through the system.
So do you foresee the policy being implemented anytime soon? I know a lot of shipping experts have already said that due to the holiday season, the removal of long-dwelling import containers has slowed at the port. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, we hit a lower resistance level during the Christmas break, and that was predicted as we shared with the White House and even in my monthly press conference with the media. Now, after the first 3 days of this week, the week of January 3rd, we've seen those numbers improve once again as more folks have come back on the job. And once we forecasted that as well. We're watching the Omicron variant very closely. We are seeing here in our harbor community spikes in infection rates, very similar to what we've seen in Los Angeles County, the state of California, and throughout the country. But folks are out to work. There's work for everyone who wants it right now. Yet I am going to keep that tool in our kit. If we need to implement that fee against aging containers, we will. Make no mistake about that. At the same time, what this has given us the ability to do through data mining is segment this cargo away. We've got patio furniture and lounge chairs. We've got flat screen televisions ahead of Super Bowl. And we've just got to make sure the product that needs to get to market, like the 20% of our imports, which are parts and components for the manufacturing sector throughout the country, get to market as quickly as they can. Those that don't need to, let's put them to the side for now. We'll deal with it, but we've got to keep this port fluid. The other place in this area also is that with releasing all of these imports and making sure that we have products flowing through the domestic supply chain, we're starting to see a return of empty containers at heightened levels. We're also in the middle of another mini peak of imports ahead of an early Lunar New Year, the 1st of February. So even though we seem to continue to focus on certain areas, believe me, Here at the port and throughout the industry, we're looking at a number of areas that continuously need improvement in our supply chain.
Going into a completely different topic now, back in July of last year, you unveiled your new Horizon Port Optimizer, which forecasts cargo movements for up to 6 months ahead of time. Using this solution, how does the first half of 2022 look for the Port of Los Angeles?
Yeah, as just described, James, we see a pretty heavy rush coming in before landings, third, fourth week of February out of Asia. Then we'll be able to move into a second quarter where major retailers and home improvement stores are telling me they're going to focus on replenishing inventory because that inventory sales ratio nationwide is still the lowest it's been in a decade. We've seen some really good movement from folks like Target and Walmart bumping up their inventories in Q3, preparing for Q4, but there's much more to do in those areas, not only to satisfy the great demand the American consumer continues to display, but what the downline effect of consumer buying will be. Then we may have the opportunity for a little bit of a break before we move into an early peak season once again in year 2022. Last year, you may remember we were at the confluence of not only savvy importers pulling forward inventories for the holidays, but that was also met with the rising demand of our day-to-day purchasing, back to school and Halloween products, as well as fall fashion. All of those converged on us at one time. This year, we're going to try to continue to work with industry and segment those as best we can so we can have a laser focus on getting products where they need to be at the proper time.
Delving deeper into the Horizon system, though, can you explain the importance of data and prediction technologies like Horizon itself to the port and its stakeholders?
Now, during the 8 years that I've been on the job here at the Port of Los Angeles, we have been recognized as a leader in promoting data sharing. Our development, our innovation with the Port Optimizer, co-developed with Wabtec, is still the first and only port community system in the United States. We're decades behind other trading nations when it comes to information sharing, and we've got to get over that hump. Being able to see cargo that's coming in anywhere from 14 to 40 days ahead of vessel arrival gives us as a community a better place to understand what staffing and machinery we need on the ground in order to execute our operations. Further, looking upstream, it will allow us not only that planning horizon, but with the horizon itself, it will allow us to make sure that we can train, upskill, reskill workers, have the right machinery on the ground with enough of a lead time to make action happen. And that's going to be the difference maker with being able to look 6 months upstream. My next vision is to have purchase order information come into the horizon. Purchase orders for most importers of good size here in the United States put their orders into factories 60 to 90, even 120 days before a ship departs Asia. Imagine if we could harness that information, which largely resides among the consolidator and purchase order management community today, so we can plan even further than we do right now. So this is all in the works and how we want to make sure that we have as much data, as much knowledge as possible to make good decisions and bring certainty back to the supply chain.
Again, going on to a completely different topic, one of the most important things in the port sector right now is the implementation of greener operations. You've recently introduced your Clean Air Action Plan, but what other measures can we expect in the near future to help achieve the goals of this plan?
Yeah, James, this is an exciting part of what we do. Predating me, going back to 2006, the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles instituted the world's first ever Clean Air Action Plan for ports. And since then, the results have been nothing short of amazing. A reduction in diesel particulate matter near 90%, NOx of 64% reduction, and sulfur oxide reduced by nearly 97% during that time. Now it's time to get after decarbonization and greenhouse gases. And the way to do that is to get to zero emissions. In June of 2017, Long Beach Mayor Robert Garcia and Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti resolved that we would be a zero emissions terminal operating port complex by the year 2030 and a zero emissions heavy duty truck port by the year 2035. Right now, on the ground, we're testing 27 near zero products and well over 107 products on the zero emissions side. That will move to more than 200 machines of zero emissions variety in the next year and a half that we're testing right here at the Port of Los Angeles. And that's what we've tried to share with manufacturers, original equipment manufacturers, and their tiered suppliers. You've got a 7,500 acre test bed right here in LA that you can use with your equipment, take the diagnostics back to the scientists and engineers, see what works, see what needs to be fine-tuned. The results so far have been encouraging. We still have a long way to go. And that's why we've created this market maker concept. We want to show the manufacturing community that we can be good customers. The Port of Los Angeles is a landlord port by definition. We have relationships with our terminal operators contractually. We don't own any of the capital equipment. So it's about bringing truckers, marine terminal operators, and other port facilitators together with those manufacturers to make this market and propel zero emissions in a cost-effective, widespread, accelerated manner.
Going on to my final question now. Thank you again for your time today. We've briefly touched on the fast approaching Lunar New Year. But what does the port need to do between now and then to successfully move cargo ahead of this peak?
And we're doing just that. Imports that have been on the dock since we began measuring through this very public discussion on October 25th have declined by nearly half. Those that were aging are more than halfway complete. But again, over that time, we brought in about 137 vessels since we first announced these mile markers that we needed to reach. So we're going to continue to push every bit of efficiency we can, every hour, every shift, every day to move cargo more fluidly. But at this juncture, we have latent capacity. 55% of our truck gates every day go unused for a variety of reasons. There's more opportunity to bring cargo in and out of this port right now by truck than we've had in some time. The two Western railroads, Union Pacific and Burlington Northern Santa Fe, tell me that they've got between a 30 and 40% overhanging capacity right now. The ability to get cargo to the interior of the country relies on these two great companies and our short line, the Pacific Harbor Line, right here in Los Angeles and Long Beach. We've got to make great use of this capacity that we have. And as more and more cargo comes across the Pacific, get it out to market as quickly as possible. We're ready. We've got to continue to go day in and day out on the ground with this execution plan.
Gene, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you again for your time again. And I wish you all the best in 2022.
Thank you, James. Appreciate your time today.